Hey Wolfpack, it's Hazelwetta. Come with me to interview Gabriel González, founder of Casalú. I'm currently here at Raleigh Founded, and for some context, Gabriel González actually was program manager for NC State's Innovation Entrepreneurship.
I'm Gabe. I'm the co-founder and co-CEO at Casalú, which is a sparkling rum brand that we created to serve uh, Gen Z Latinos. So it's all about bringing our heritage to the new generation of Latino consumers here in the States and eventually beyond. Um, so Casalú comes from casa and salud. And what that means is for Casa, it was all about our family, our heritage, where we come from, and who we are. Salu is always about having an open invitation to Latino culture for everyone who wants to be part of it. Salu is that word that we say when we are celebrating to cheers that I think everybody can understand. And so I'm Venezuelan. I grew up in Venezuela. I came to the United States when I was 17. I first went and did a English course at NC State, and then I was lucky enough to then go to Wade Tech for a little bit, and then transfer to NC State, where I studied entrepreneurship and minored in accounting. Regarding my heritage, and like I mentioned, I'm Venezuelan, and I think as a Latino, as a Caribbean Latino, and as a Venezuelan, there was always this um, understanding of the struggles, specifically during the time I came to the United States, Venezuela was going through. Huge economic implosion, the biggest exodus in the history of Latin America. And I was just lucky to be, you know, on the bright side of that equation and end up at NC State. So my heritage comes with me. It's still a big part of it. And ultimately launched a company that has that as part of their DNA.
So what inspired you to make a drink company specifically?
Look, drinks, it's interesting, right? So Casalú exists at the convergence of two things. Um, the first one is our generation was quickly switching from beer as that main drink of choice to hard seltzers. So your White Claws, your High News, and my co-founder was never the biggest fan of beer. And during the pandemic, he encountered these options and said, "Wow, why isn't there one made for Latinos? Because we have a lot of those in beer that we feel authentically represent our heritage." And then that's the other part of the equation where we believe that just like we grew up with Black culture leading global culture, we were going to see Latino culture become pop culture. And I think we already saw it this past weekend with Bad Bunny at the Super Bowl a few days ago. And that's exactly what we were talking about. Can we have a brand that speaks and represents that modern interpretation of our heritage and that we convey through a drink that authentically represents our roots and our flavors? And that's why Casalú exists, to share our heritage and our culture through a drink.
So my marketing coordinator tells me that you went down to Miami. Can you tell me all about that journey?
Yeah, Miami was our initial choice as the home for Casalú, and the reason was we were lucky enough to get accepted into the Andrews Launch Accelerator, and that gave us the opportunity to see the colleagues that were in technology, and they were validating over the weekend and getting customers, and then we had a product and we were talking about the meaning of brand. So we knew we had to go deeper, and the decision was simply let's go where our consumer is. And we asked ourselves, well, where is the highest concentration of Latinos who understand rum? And clearly the option and the choice was Miami. At that time, we, as co founders, were living in different cities in the United States. So we moved to Miami and rented an Airbnb with just one bed, and we would drink horizontally. And our job there was to fundamentally crash parties where we would give out the drink and get feedback. and use that as information to tweak our product in the early days, because we had a kitchen recipe, and from the kitchen we went to a keg, and that's what we would take to these occasions and in order to get feedback.
I want to ask, why rum?
So the industry was built on malt based beverages like White Claw, and then the other popular options then became vodka, which is fundamentally a neutral spirit. And then we've seen the rise of also tequila based options, which is the number one liquor consumed in the US. For us, rum was an extremely important part of our culture and heritage. So we are from the Caribbean, the founders, and in Venezuela, we grew up with really, really amazing rums that were very accessible and properly priced. When we immigrated to the US, it became extremely hard to find those. And over time, we've seen more and more come into the market, but not as established category yet. So our perception of rum was not only is it important culturally, but it's an incredible and overlooked spirit based, and that's what we wanted to use in Casalú, because it was very personal to us to have that as the soul of our drink.
So what is Casalú doing in this new year? I mean, it's 2026. Everyone has a million plans. Can you tell me what Casalú is aiming to do?
Yeah, 2026 is the year that Casalú becomes a drink of the summer. And what I mean by that is we've been spending a lot of time really developing the brand, cementing it in South Florida. And we just did three very important or hit very important milestones, which are to switch to a distributor that can reach many more accounts in the area where we're based out of, which is part of the Anheuser-Busch network of distributors, and that allows us for growth. And we also revamped our liquid to make it a bit more mass market approachable, and our packaging be way clearer. And we've seen an uptick of up to 5x same store sales, and that is what it's an indicator of. Casalu has found product market fit. It's time to take it as far and wide as we can. So the next 6 months are extremely important for us, and Miami being our main market is going to be a very hot year because we have everything from the World Baseball Classic to the World Cup happening. And kind of a personal project for me as well is that I'll be launching in Raleigh, which is extremely important. And you'll see me more at NC State.
Do you guys have a catchphrase yet?
I think it we we do, but there are a couple, right? So a lot of people, and a lot of it's come from people uh, and customers. So a lot of people say, salu, casalu, like automatically they complete it that way. Um, we call it the champagne of the Caribbean. We don't have champagne in the Caribbean, so this is our approximation. Rum with bubbles. That's very internal used, and I think we're using it more and more. And when we communicate about Casalú, really, like we talk to people, and it's kind of part of the slogan is just try Latin America, and it really seems to resonate. So that's where we're at.
And lastly, I am an immigrant as well. I'm from the Philippines, and never did I think I would be in spaces like this. So what would you say to people who don't feel like they fit that entrepreneur kind of stereotype?
Well, I think it's you deserve to be in those rooms, right? And having the confidence to be in those rooms is extremely important. Feeling like you have something to bring to the table is it's always the hard part. I think at NC State specifically, a lot of what we did with the entrepreneurship program was build up that confidence, because we did not grow up in I personally did not grow up in an economy that even had a definition for venture capital. It doesn't exist. Trusting strangers with money as investors doesn't exist. And so when you enter a place and a community that does embrace those things, it's nothing but opportunity to partake and know that where you come from and how you look at the world is extremely important. It's extremely important. And you need to be part of the conversation. So, I mean, my message is yeah, you deserve to be in the big tables. Make sure you're heard. And if you want to find Casalú, and you can find us on Instagram at Drink Casalú. We are in select stores, in ABC stores in Raleigh, and obviously very widely available in South Florida and in Florida. So just keep an eye on us, and hopefully we get to drink one together soon. Salud.